So the first 15 minutes being incredibly positive about Ange, about how wonderful everything is.
No. We can't lie to our listeners. Good morning, everybody. It's the three amigos, and whether there are injustices or overweight Australians, you will find us. I'd like to just kick off the show on a kind of sane note. Hearts go out to the people in Liverpool. Absolutely disgusting. And as Tony was remarking to me there, I think it was from Yes Minister or Yes Prime Minister, excellent show of years gone by. Of course, nothing is true until it's officially denied. So we'll wait and see. But real people run over by a real person. Not good. So back in the world of dreams, where there are less severe things to have to contest, we are in extraordinary times. I think it's the kindest thing. And just to let people know, okay, because frequently in life you need to be told who's in charge, right? We're in charge of this channel. If you don't like it, up the road a piece. Good luck. We wish you all well. There are many podcasters, commentators, influencers, call them what you want, who have flip-flopped. And they've done that. Let me tell you, they've done it because they've had enough on the financial side and from their let's all be friends side. Postecoglou's 2 seasons at Spurs, I can promise you, have cost everybody in the business money. And there is a line being drawn by some hosts, as I say, influencers, podcasters, and they're flip-flopping. And they've gone from telling you what they truly think to telling you what you want to hear. And I saw a comment this morning online, and it was in reaction to some negative stuff on, and it wasn't hugely negative, it was just pointing out the truth. I mean, if your daughter is a pig, you would be a fool to keep telling her she's the prettiest little thing in the world, because that's going to set her up for a massive fall. You need to protect things you love. We all love Spurs, and we need to protect that. And part of that is not going along with any old nonsense. But there was a nasty comment, not nasty, some factually correct unkindnesses about Ange's reign, and the guy and some guy. It was on The Last Word on Spurs, and one of the commentators first through the doors said, "Guys, can't you just leave it a week?" No, we can't leave it a week. We can't leave. To interrupt the celebrations would be crass. But the truth is the truth. Over to you, gentlemen.
I picked up on something quite telling on, when was it, Sunday? The difference between finishing 14th and 17th was between 4.5 and 8 million in revenue. Yeah. So anybody who says he isn't costing us anything is bonkers, because he's just cost us the cost of his payoff.
Yeah, if you take, I mean, we're just nip into this before we move on to the more thrilling stuff to hang in with. But if you want to talk about money, because there are lots of people, and I always say this, and it gets me into a bang load of trouble because it's not a favourable thing to say, but there are a lot of you talking about money and football, and you don't know the difference between this and the thing you're sitting on, right? If you take all of the Ange ecosystem of financials, he's lost us money. He's lost us money, because if he'd have finished 10th or 7th or something like that, I was trying to work it out. There's so many differentials because of the European placings. That's the stuff that makes it really sticky. And all the broadcast money, plus his payoff, plus this, plus that. You can't finish 22nd. Sorry, you can't lose 22 points, which is a Premier League record.
22 games.
No, sorry, yeah, you can't lose 22 games. Thank you very much. You can't lose 22 games and just lap it up, because that's a Premier League record for a Premier League side that hasn't been relegated. Every other side since in beginning of the Premier League that has lost 22 games has been relegated. So this guy is on, David Blaine levels of magic and mystery. But the money doesn't add up, and you can't talk about money you haven't had. So yes, we're in the Champions League, but you don't get that money up front, and it's only 93 million on average. And if you want to earn megabucks in the Champions League, you'll never guess this. You'll never guess it in a million years. That's right. Yeah, you have to actually go really far in the competition.
I went online the other day and calculated it, because someone was going on about oh, we're going to get £100 million next year. That's a 2 or 3 decent players. No. Just to qualify if you qualify from the group stage, you get 41 million. Yeah, if you qualify, and that assumes you win all the games as well, because you don't get as much money for losing a game. If you win the trophy and win every game, you get about 103 million. Now, so therefore, everybody's counting like we've won the Champions League already. We've not even got out the group stages yet.
We've not even got off the coach yet.
You've just hit the nail on. You've just hit the nail on the head, Tony. The results are in winning. We're unable to win league games. So when we're in the league phase of the tournament, lesser teams have worked us out far easier than your Inter Milans and your Juventuses and your Real Madrids and your Barcelonas.
And do we also want to be reminded of Ange's spectacular record in the Champions League with Celtic? Would you like to guess? Let's all play a little guessing game, shall we, children?
Hang on. This simply isn't fair. You can't pick and choose. You can't say that his career at Celtic was a non-event and then drag it up to beat him over the head with it. Yes, okay, let's do that. How was his record in Europe, Tony?
I was going to say, have I joined the wrong channel? But he won 0 games in Europe with Celtic.
Well, can I posit a reply to that? Could it be? I shall try. I shall be brief. But could it be because he can only beat shite sides? Because the teams in Europe that we've played, and I've been banging on and on and on, but people think I'm suddenly talking like Chinese algebra, have all been 6s, 7s, 8s, and 9s to 1. Massive long shots we beat to get past the 15 games that took us to the glory of Bilbao. But you play somebody decent and you have your pants pulled down and sent home with a sore body.
We got massively lucky in winning that tournament. We parked the bus against Eintracht Frankfurt. We played a bunch of almost nobodies from Norway. And in the final, other than Brennan Johnson shanking one in with his shin, how many times did we work the keeper? How many other opportunities did we have on target? It was the most lackluster, dull game in memory.
Well,
you've still got this, I don't know, these ancestors and these cult members. You go onto the internet, and I saw a poll when I was sat on the train this morning. 72% of those polled wanted to keep Ange. You're thinking, have you completely ignored the 22 defeats in the season just gone? The fact we've finished 17th, it's just an absolute mystery why this bloke's getting a free rein. And then he did a video that I shared with you this morning.
Yeah.
And the bloke is arrogant to the history of Tottenham Hotspur. This isn't the first trophy we've won. This isn't the first European honour that we've won. We're a massive club, but he's acting like he's the creator of life itself. He's like Jesus Christ, and he's delivering something we've never experienced or seen before. The bloke is so far gone, it is unbelievable.
Well, I have a theory, because I would, wouldn't I? But I have a theory that this guy has been fed the spiel, because I don't like Ange, and I've made it clear he's cost me money, right? Not because I walked into a bookmaker's, but because I earn my living from producing content about Spurs. And anybody watching this, anybody, and I've always been very bullish about things in the past because I don't tell fibs, right? I tell you exactly how it is. Anybody who says that it's been okay is lying. Everybody's lost money. There was a Google reset back in September, October last year, and the combination of that and Ange has destroyed it for everybody, which is why when you look on news now, you've got the Mirror, Football London are putting virtually every article up because they're desperate to attract their content to anybody, because it's all collapsed, because Tottenham is a very, very unwelcome guest at the wedding. The point I wanted to make is in relation to the fans being told that this is a historic event and 17 years we've been in the wilderness and all this nonsense. Yeah, much of it is true, but only if you're of a certain vintage, which is to say you're very young. And if you look at us and you're going to, oh no, he's going to come out with this again. But they've aimed, all of the content has been the most puerile and infantilization of the news and everything, because the newsrooms are all full of kids. They've sacked people who had any stature. So instead of having, as I said it before, Tom Colomosi at the Evening Standard. We've got Dan Kilpatrick who's saying he's a clown. There's stuff you shouldn't put in print in a proper newspaper. And if the Evening Standard wants to be a proper newspaper, they need to get a grip of their HR policies, because hiring little idiots that aren't shaving yet doesn't do you any favors.
And
So
just check to make sure they haven't sent any tweets 13 years ago of an unsavory nature, as they'll come back and bite you on the arse.
What's that girl's name? Abby
Grace Summers.
Abby Grace Summers. Who knew she was a member of the Ku Klux Klan? Who knew? Who knew? She can never be seen in a Spurs shirt or anything white ever again.
And will never be able to do any charitable work in Africa.
Send her to Africa. That's what they said. That's what's coming back from the polls. But yeah, so good luck with your career, Abby Grace, hang 'em high, Burning Cross Summers. So good luck with your career. It appears to be on fire. You might want to step away from that burning cross. So the deal with the audience is that Spurs have been appealing to in all their social media stuff has been appallingly twisted. And what they've done, it's all these sort of 15, 20-year-old, like I say, people haven't married, haven't traveled, blah, blah, blah. What's in the box? And here's a grown man telling you that he thinks doesn't know if it's jelly or a porcupine. All of this nonsense is aimed at morons. So the big sort of rafter fans that you get polluting the social channels, saying, why can't you be happy? Why aren't you celebrating? Well, because I'm a grown-up. If you come home and your son has brought a tiger into the house, right? And you say, what the hell? But Dad, it's a tiger. Most people haven't even seen a tiger. No, they normally, you have to go to a zoo or something, Yeah, but he's destroyed the house. He's eaten the furnishings. He's shit everywhere. There's carnage. He's eaten our dog. And this is like, focus on the magic, don't focus on the grim stuff. And this is the thing that you got three grown-ups like us on a channel like this who say to you, but he's lost 10 home games. I mean, Chris, you're the man in the rain, sleet, and slow snow, driving into North London to go and watch some of the most turgid football we've seen in our lives. And we're supposed to go, well, it doesn't really matter because we've had your money and you've got a cup. Why aren't you out celebrating?
I celebrated in the moment at a time, but I'd like to think I'm grown up and sensible enough to realise that it was a second-rate cup without offending too many. The quality of the opposition was very weak, and if you analyse our actual performance in the games, did you for one moment get the same excitement as when we played Inter Milan in the Champions League? When Gareth Bale hung Macon out to dry? No, you didn't. So
we've won one of our last 12 league games, and
I've
got a list of these things.
Again, without putting a big target on my own back to be shot at, it was the little club mentality. Yeah, it was nice to win a cup. We needed to get one over the line. We needed to change the mentality and philosophy of the club, but we've not let go of it. And all those people who said, doesn't matter if we lose on Sunday. How's that any different when Ange had a pop at us fans for supposedly wanting Man City to beat us to stop Arsenal winning the league? You can't say on one hand one's right and on the other is wrong.
Well, you can if you're a fat hypocrite, which is what he is. I mean, just to give you an indication of management skills, and then we come in there, Tony. Everton were in a relegation battle from the start of the season until David Moyes arrived in January. Finished 10 points above us, 10 points above us, because he's a coach. He's a coach. And I mean, everywhere you look with Ange, but you've got the trophy, which is shining and beaming and glorious and illustrious and a source of joy. But everywhere you look beyond the trophy, it's a graveyard. It's doom and gloom. And if you can't see that, these are, Tony, we do this every bloody week, but holding two independent thoughts that don't quite kind of meld together in your head at the same time. You're allowed to say the trophy's amazing, but you're equally allowed to say, what the hell is all this desolation and despair that surrounds us? And that's and at which point you have to say, over to you, Daniel Levy.
Yeah.
Not that I'm suggesting you look like Daniel Levy, Tony, of course.
No, more
Far
like
too
more,
decent.
more like
Very
Hannibal
sure.
Lecter.
I wouldn't give a shit if I looked like him as long as I had his money, you know. But there's sort of two or three things that are sort of sprung to me. Yeah, like you say, I was there. You know, I was at the stadium and watching it on the big screen, and the atmosphere was amazing. And in the moment, I was delighted as anybody else, and I was as delighted as anybody else when I saw the parade on Friday night. You know, my daughter was down there. She had taken some great pictures. She was right close to the bus. Everything, you know. So please, anybody who thinks like, yeah, we're miserable buggers. No, reality is not miserable. Reality is reality. We were good.
Yeah.
We enjoyed the moment, but there's still this thing about 22 league games lost, the worst win ratio of a manager in Premier League history, 1.1 points per game, and this nonsense about he's thrown the league since January. Then why is it he cared? Why was it he was so bloody miserable all the time? If he knew in the back of his brain, doesn't matter. This doesn't matter to me. This doesn't matter to me because we're focusing on the Europa League. Why was he so miserable? Why was he so defensive? Why was he so arrogant? I'll tell you why. Because one of the classic narcissistic tendencies is to turn around and say things like, "Oh, that was my plan all along." Because I want to look like I'm a freaking genius.
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer to that is the reason he didn't do the exact opposite of what he did is because he was fibbing to us. He turned around and he made, which was effortless, because telling a fib is effortless if the ducks are all lined up in a row, and he made what had happened fit a different narrative, an alternate narrative to what was actually happening. So we've been watching dreadful football, losing a ton of games. So what happened, Ange? What happened? Well, you'll never guess this, right? No, we couldn't guess it because you're just making it up now as you go along.
Too many of our fan base look at things with sentiment and emotion, where you've got to stop and apply logic. And coming from a industry which is very cutthroat, yes, I was happy we won last week, but that's not enough for me. I want to see us challenging for Champions League finals. I want to see us winning league titles. I want to see us bringing home the tradition of the FA Cup again. So yes, I can celebrate for that moment in time, but then I get back to reality, and I think this should be the catalyst for change, and it should be the start of something. And if it's not, then the whole thing's a waste of time.
Well,
but you've
Chris,
got too many people who are apologists, and they can't see hard fact, and they don't like to hear the truth.
Well, the thing is, Chris, as well, the retort to that will be, yeah, but this is the start. This is the start of something. And like you and like us, I would turn around and say, you say this is the start, but we barely escaped relegation.
Yeah.
But if it had been a case of we were 8th or 9th or something like that, and showing that even though we dropped from 5th last year to 8th, but we were playing some decent football, there was a growing consensus among the fan base that there was a team coming together. Brought in a bit more youth. And
What you're describing there are green shoots.
Yeah, exactly.
From which you say, mighty oak trees might grow.
Exactly.
But you don't say there's green shoots if you're 17th and you've lost 22 games and you're unwatchable.
And again, people are saying, "Oh, we've got to give this guy a chance." You go give somebody a chance who thought signing Timo Werner on loan was a good idea, or some of the signings he's made. You cannot trust this man with £5, let alone £100 million.
Or someone who wants to spend £50 million on Mathis Tell, for God's sake. When you've got other clubs going after Mbuemo for the same price, and I know exactly out of those two, there's no competition. I know exactly who I'd have.
That's a very interesting point, Tony. We heard that whoever won their final was go places. Whoever didn't had real hard times ahead of them, were in financial distress. So Manchester United have agreed the Kuna signing. And they're pushing forward with Mbuemo. Sorry, who won that final? Can you just remind me?
Yeah.
But you see the other thing as well, and this links through the thread here of the fact that this is appealing to a certain kind of supporter, and of course they will be screaming at us in the comment section. No, you mean a real supporter? But there's certain sort of supporter who's hoovering this stuff up and just go, wow, yeah. And Ange has been pushing this narrative, this reaction, that he's baffled as to why people are
in that position. Yeah,
people are questioning his position and his future, when surely even a child could see that we've won the Europa League trophy. And everything else is they don't want to even discuss it. And after that game against Brighton that we lost by a margin of 3 goals, and people are still talking about Vicario as if he's fit for purpose, which he flipping well isn't. He's there was, if you go back and all the tapes, and I've broken them down into bite-sized pieces on this channel for you, so you can actually take them in, opposed to just listen to him staring at his, yeah, mate, well, come on. But he actually doesn't talk about the Brighton game. And if you go back through all of the presses, and I've been doing a little bit of homework on this bastard in the recent
Oh my
week.
God, you mean that horrible thing called research? You bastard, you.
Yeah, more facts, boo.
Can you remember at the beginning of last season where he convinced us that we were competing for the title and his ambition was the league title, and we had the squad and the capability to compete for the league title?
But we didn't. But we you see, he's been selling empty boxes. And I always use this line because it's, if you think of a market store and the guy on Oxford Street, as it was a million years ago, was selling bottles of Chanel perfume for £2.50 a bottle for what was 40 quid in the shops. And when you got it home, it was tap water that probably a cat had done something in. Now, the reality is that guy isn't there when you want to go and get your money back. And you can only sell people junk for so long. And his MO in his time at Spurs has been a guy that got away with it because you have to give him credit. There was a new manager bounce, and it doesn't matter if the new manager is Fred West. You give the person credit for achieving a new manager bounce. And he did have a system, this Tora ball, whereby people were confused, and we did give people a bit of something to think about, but then they worked out how to get around it. And once we'd done that, he then had to realize that his defense didn't work when people got round his let's all charge at them routine. And we've been playing a very low block Conte ball, Espirito Santos ball, Mourinho ball ever since. And that version of football isn't what this fan base wants. I don't necessarily agree with them because I'm more into results than the actual hoo-ha, but maybe that's because I'm an old man. Yes, we do like magic. But the reality is, if you want magic, you need players like Luka Modric and Gareth Bale, and you can't get them all the time. I mean, Maddison isn't Gareth Bale or Luka Modric, not in a million flipping years.
Well, look at Sunday as an example. Brighton turned up with no recognised centre forward. They had Danny Welbeck on the bench. They had even Ferguson out on loan at West Ham, and the Brazilian lad who used to play for Watford. What was his name? Pedro. He scores a lot of penalties. So their Brazilian forward.
Pedro Peno.
Yeah, that sounds about right. We'll just make it up as a criticism. Yeah, Pedro. Yeah, Pedro had a falling out, and his future lays elsewhere. But they beat us by 4 goals to 1 with no recognised forward. And teams of their manager tweaked it at half time and rode for us like a chocolate tea cozy. And too many managers have been able to do that.
Chris, it was because they'd all been on a 3-day bender. You see, that's the thing, So therefore, they were tired in the second half. Don't
you think it's hilarious when the opposition provide you with a guard of honour and then are pissing themselves that they've just bent you over a table and done you up the chuffer vigorously, and there's nothing you can do about it.
You've been vigorously chuffed.
Yeah.
Well, again,
whilst receiving your guard of honour.
And next season. Our back four and goalkeeper go resemble a scene out of Bonnie Blue movie, because they go through us with absolute ease repeatedly, and we probably won't even ask for the STI certification beforehand.
Spurs are going to look like a plasterer's radio.
Yeah. But it's all, we've said this time and time again, but it's been the art of deflection. It's been the art.
Yeah.
But we're in this important critical period now where Levy's got to have sorted this out by the end of the week, because all the other clubs around us are already making moves in the transfer market. And this is
I wouldn't take what other people are up to as an indicator of what Daniel should or shouldn't do. I mean, he always swans in late and just checks his pocket for a change.
But look at the fast after the last long-term recruitment campaign where Nuno Espirito Santo came in very late doors. We've got loads of work to be doing in the transfer market in respect to getting bodies out of the club, working out where your likes of Donnelly, and Keeley, where they need to be loaned out potentially to Championship level. We've got Dorrington coming back, who won a Scottish Cup final at the weekend with Aberdeen. So we got Alfie Devine coming back, Vucevic coming in. So we got loads of players. We need to clear the decks of all the crap, and we need to add that 3 or 4 touches of quality and establish now players. But somebody needs to be doing that, and it needs to be whoever the coach is. So they need to sort this out sooner rather than later. The longer it continues, the worse it is for the club.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But if he was truly throwing the league as he has so richly proclaimed, why wasn't he playing all the lads?
well, this is it.
They've not even seen sunshine.
This is the other thing I just want to put out there, because he's banging on about, oh, so and so's 17, so and so's 18, blah blah. You can only it's that, like the old phrase, you know, your Ronaldinhos, your Dalgliches, no, they're just individuals. Everybody's a one-off, at the risk of turning this into a Monty Python sketch. You know, everybody's a one-off. And yes, we have got some youth players in the first 11, but there are more not in the first 11, and there are more, I would suggest, ought to be in the first 11, or ought to be there and thereabouts and used, rotated. So when you get an injury, you've got the likes of, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, the point I'm making is I don't think he likes these kids at all. I think he just doesn't trust them, because he's under such pressure, because he's so out of his depth, that his idea is that he fed us these cobblers that as soon as we got all of our players back, it would be a different story.
That's ironic when Tottenham ways resembled Epstein Island for the last 18 months, isn't it?
I don't know what you're referring to, and then until people are found guilty, it's very difficult.
So we've moved on from serial killers to sex offenders. Brilliant! What a class channel we are.
Well, we opened up with a who knew racist?
Was it a rapist or
a rapist and a wobber? But I've got no idea what Abby's been up to in other aspects of her life. But we all wish her very well at this troubling moment for her. But I don't think he likes these kids. I don't think he likes them at all. I mean, you've got the business with Mikey Moore deleting his account with his opening goal for Spurs. Don't tell me that isn't an indicator of something.
Well, the suggestion is, that he's now agreed a long-term contract for when he turns 18. Whether it comes off or not remains to be seen.
Well, if you chuck enough money at somebody, though, mate, if you chuck enough somebody at money, they'll buy it.
Yeah, I mean, let's see that contract, because why would he? I mean, unless he's gone the way of so many other characters at Spurs who doesn't care if he plays because he's got £1 million house and hot and cold running Bentleys outside. I mean, that's a depressing thought that he would agree to something like that. I mean, I saw a clip of him saying, "Oh, it's been the season of his life," and I just thought, "Wow, okay."
At 17 years of age, when he only started caving last week.
When's your autobiography out? I can't wait to read that. But I mean, he's not played enough football for me, not anywhere near enough. And if you think of the opportunities that have been created, because again, and I don't buy into this mystery. Oh, there was a virus where people's hamstrings went. This guy has ploughed them into the floor. He's had injury problems wherever he's been.
Yeah.
This isn't new. This isn't new. But we weren't presented with that because none of the journalists did their bloody jobs. So we had Goldmine Beer and all these other whimpering fools telling us that, oh, wait till you see when he applies the magic of what he did at Yokohama Yo-Yos and Celtic. It'll blow your mind. Yeah, it nearly blew the bloody club up. I don't think people realise how close to relegation we really were.
Well, if it wouldn't been for the 3 that were promoted last season being dog shit, all of whom went down, we'd have been in real trouble. And it would be nice to find an independent journalist who actually speaks what we all think, as opposed to these fanboys who are all keen for the latest scoop, who stick themselves to the football club, and it's just sickening, nauseating.
It would have been really interesting. It would have been really interesting to see what Ange's response to that would have been if we'd have truly been in a relegation scrap, because you can't just turn around and claim, well, we chucked the league in because we knew we weren't going to win it, so we were going all out for the Europa. Not when you're in the relegation scrap.
You're doing that thing again, Tony, though. You're ignoring the fact that he made that up.
So, you know what?
That's not actually his default position.
I'm being charitable, H. I'm being charitable by saying I'm giving him the benefit of the doubts.
Well,
Right, I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt. That doubt is the name of my sawn-off shotgun.
his own admission that he threw the league should be justification to sack him in the first place, because you've
I mean,
got to be
this is
held
this
to
is
account.
the,
Why do we
this
have
is
key performance indicators? Why do I get hauled over the coals every month to see what I'm delivering or not delivering to the organisation? Because they want us to be the very best that we can be, not I will just accept second best, try and scrape over the finish line and call
when
it
you're
a
looking
day.
at Levy, when you're looking at Levy, he's a bean counter, isn't he? Let's face it, we know that. We've said that for many, many years. He's a bean counter. He's going to look back on this season and he's going to use the trophy. He's going to use that all that glory, blah, blah, blah. Look, after 17 years of failure, aren't I a wonderful chairman? He's going to completely rewrite the narrative. But he'll look at it in the grand scheme of things. He's going to look at it in the grand scheme of things and say, shit, that was a crap year. We didn't make any money out of this.
Well, the trouble is, all these points that we're making now, and I won't keep interrupting and saying, but these are things like Chris's things about key performance indicators. You're talking about stuff as complex as the balance sheet of the business. Why would the average fan that is polluting social media telling us why can't we just celebrate what would make you happy? They don't worry about that because they don't pay
grown
rent.
ups. That's why. They
don't pay rent. And those kids, key performance indicators. You mean you're bullying me? You're bullying me?
We need more Norman Stanley Fletchers who follow this channel than some of these young
what
wankers.
A great.
And we need more sense views that fella puts in on a weekly basis.
Yeah,
Never met you, love you loads.
Yeah, he puts in a fantastic shift. It has to be said. And I'll tell you how good his shift is. A friend of mine who isn't a Spurs fan said, "Are you commentating under a fake name on your channel?" because he said he's just absolute, because he's my age, we're at school together, and he spotted the quality and the wit of the guy. But yeah, it's a tragedy. And dare I say it, because it's all about me, isn't it? But I told you all that they were dumbing down the fan base. And when they were putting up those bloody pictures, the airbrush thing of the imaginings of the architect's dream, they were people, sorry, Chris, in Dockers with carrier bags. They weren't football fans. They weren't blokes with shaved head, flat noses, and big coats on. That's how I grew up. I mean, goodness me, they were people they could be anywhere.
I'll take that as an invitation to leave now then.
No, don't stand up. We don't want to see your beige.
I think Chris stole his jacket from that picture, mate. That's what I reckon.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to single out any one of us. I mean, got blokes, dressed very similarly at the top there, and then we have man at architect's dream at the bottom there.
Chris B, man at CNA.
Excuse me.
Action man at CNA. Enemy tanks approaching. But yeah, it is depressing. It is depressing because these people they love and it's like this is the thing. I mean, God, you're bringing all this life experience to a conversation about football, but people who don't have a proper message, they tag on to like fridge magnet slogans because they need something that doesn't have any complexity to it. So you get people screaming free Palestine. That's the message. So what do you think of this? I don't know about that. I just want to, and this is what they're going to do. They're just, what about the Europa League trophy? Which is why all the YouTubers are flip-flopped. They've all flip-flopped because they don't feel comfortable being seen as trying to kind of spoil the party.
As of all the celebratory memes I saw, I think the best one I saw the other day was a Tottenham flag on the front of an Israeli Defense Forces tank going into Gaza Strip.
I can't get enough. I've just decided what I want for my birthday. It's a tattoo of that across my chest. What the hell? Free plastic.
Do you know what made me laugh though, Tony? After all the celebrations, it's come to my conclusion that none of our boys can drink because Brennan Johnson was as pissed as a piss thing in Pissville. And
he was hilarious, wasn't he?
Romero had to be physically restrained to stop him falling out of the bus. Only in Tottenham could you get a life threatening injury, celebrating success. But
Do you
the
know,
thing about
I was thinking that all the time, mate, when we were watching that parade, I was thinking, who's going to be Spursy enough to fall out the fucking bus?
Yeah.
I was hoping one of them would actually puke in the cup. That was what my wish was. But Romero, not seen since those celebrations. Wasn't in the match day squad on Sunday, allegedly dealing with an injury.
With his
But
toe. With his
mysteriously appears online last night, giving a cryptic message that it's essential we keep Ange. That we've got to continue. Well, everything's telling us you want away from the club quicker than Usain Bolt out 100-meter starting blocks.
Well, don't forget as well that he also published a less than cryptic message, saying fans it was along the lines of the mood of fans at Spurs in his heart forever, and it sounded to me like a farewell.
That's what I read into it.
It's got all the classic signs of Sol Campbell, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't say.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's all fine. Next thing you know, he's at Arsenal.
Yeah. I mean, but the reality is, you've got to be pretty thick, pretty thick, even by our own fan standards, to not see the Lo Celso ghost over Romero's shoulder. I mean, we're getting the same sort of. Is he going to play for us? Is his heart in it? It's all very wishy-washy, and for a fan base that responds ridiculously happily to fans, to being waved at or pointing into the crowd or whatever, and goes berserk. Oh, he's brilliant, isn't he? I mean, that was the thing with Timo Werner. He was making all the right noises when he arrived and was saying about, oh, what a great club this is, and taking his shirt off and handing it to the kiddie winks and all the rest of it.
You give me 160 grand a week, H, I'll say exactly what you want me to.
Yeah, I'll be programmed like a doll.
Yeah.
You press my tummy and I go, goo, goo, gaga, I want my dinner. I'll do anything. 160 grand a week. No problem at all.
Did you change on something ever so slightly? That video yesterday of one of those the Arsenal ladies supporter going on about, there they are celebrating their Champions League win. Yeah, basically an under-15s team for boys, going on about going, what do you think of Spurs and all that nonsense? They're in the middle of their own celebration of their own achievement, and the first thing that she can come out with is that. That just shows you the mentality of that club. No matter what we do, even how appalling we have been in comparison to them, we still live rent-free in their heads. And that actually gives me a sense of pleasure. That gives me just as much pleasure as winning the bloody ropey, actually.
Well, as a Mr. Nope who contributes on the Substack, he's an old mate of mine, an excellent Spurs fan of long standing, said that the whole Arsenal fan TV thing, there was a chromosome count needs to be carried out there. Which was, bless him, he sends me these little notes at sort of 6:30 in the morning. But yeah, there's somebody that needs to carry out just for their own good. But there's a chromosome count required with that entire operation.
If ever I had to predict something, it would be during the game. I thought by the end of the match, people would think that Basuma was a world beater. And this week, I'm reading numerous quotes saying, how can we let him go? Look at that performance. We need to award him. Don't be silly. Fuck him off. He's useless. Other than smoking.
Did you see him arriving?
Gas, what's he done? Yeah.
Did you see him arriving at the airport? He comes off the airport. He comes off the plane. He's got no shirt on. And all the kiddie winks are going to go berserk. I would criticise this, but he comes up. Sorry, I worked in retail for decades, so it's something you spot. He's got no shirt on, all this jewellery and headphones on, and he's got his trousers, his long shorts, his culottes or whatever, and his entire bottom is sticking out the bag. So the shorts are blue and his underwear is white. So he got his entire ass sticking out the thing, and he's pulling his carry-on luggage with a beatbox in it that's going off. And I see that in Brum. It's the latest thing. Don't forget about your what do they call them, the leak-proof earphones. People are now actually wandering around blasting tunes out of these Bluetooth sort of tube things that they carry with them. So you feel like a carnival parade's gone past you. But yeah, just a sorry sight of a man.
Compare that to a serial winner such as Luka Modric or Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi. none of whom would have carried themselves like that. It's a shame somebody didn't bump into him, as he owes me €60 for those Oakley sunglasses he sold me back in the day.
Now, careful, we don't want Alan Sugar being let off the hook of making such remarks about some players in the Premier League. Thank you very much. I mean, you're channeling your inner Abby Gray Summers there, Chris. Let's keep this diverse and
sorry. So, did I mishear that? Did you say he wants to be in Annie Gray Summers? Did you just say?
Well, there won't be a queue anymore. I think the queue was around the block approximately 24 hours ago, but I think that queue might be a little bit shorter than it was. Right, Chris has gone very quiet, having seen the errors of his ways. Chris's microphone suddenly isn't working. Look at that.
Somebody's hacked my account, honestly.
I've realised now, 30 seconds later, that I'm not the person that I was.
There was someone commenting recently on these videos going, God, Crispy, he's a miserable bastard, isn't he? I actually just seen him smile. I think actually it must be an AI or something like that.
Yeah.
He's been hacked by AI, folks. That's what happened.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I'm going to become a happy clapper.
We'll send you a box of sprats in the post. So.
His flip has flopped.
Yeah, flip flop.
So the thing about Ange I was going to add there, just to try and segue us away from the car crash of his tenure, apart from the trophy, yes, we all know that, is that the BBC said that his decision on his future was going to be made within the next 48 hours. And that was yesterday. Now, I don't know if they know something, but it seems to me a very precise thing for the Beeb to put into a bit of text there. So, where do we think?
Great bastion of the truth.
I've got to say, Levy's.
They were only small children. Come on.
Levy's end of season statement really didn't go out of its way to acknowledge him too greatly, did it?
No, it was very, very cautious. He's and he didn't get on the platform when everybody was celebrating, and when his picture came up on the thing, there were moans and groans. It's difficult. He's a difficult fish to read. Is old Daniel, but we do know he's a coward. We do know that his options are increasingly limited, and I suspect that he knows the right thing to do is to get rid of Ange, because he'll have looked at the numbers first, because that's what he does every morning when he gets out of bed. Well, obviously, the first thing he does is see if he can avoid the milkman.
When you say get out of bed, you mean rises from the grave like Nosferatu?
Funny enough, every time he starts speaking, vampire. Yeah, played by Gary Oldman in the film. But no, so I mean, the deal with it, I think he will know from looking at the numbers that this makes no sense. He will know from having sat through the quotes that, because he's not a millennial or whatever, they're Gen Z or whatever they're supposed to be, and he won't be ignoring things. He will be holding all the different thoughts that conflict with each other in his head. But the reality is that he is going to be struggling to get someone to pick up the phone. The thing that is the absolute godsend for Daniel is the fact that he can now offer Champions League football to whoever comes in. Now, you and I know that doesn't make a jot of difference, because we don't have a squad that is going to compete effectively and meaningfully at the Champions League level. We're going to probably be handed our bottoms on a paper plate. That's the most obvious thing, because we're not going to be doing a rerun. And this is the thing that Ange is selling. He's selling, and now we're going to get together and we're going to revisit the glory of that night. But we're not going to be playing clubs that are 7, 8, 9 to 1.
3, wasn't he, on the celebrations? And I was just hoping that we're a part of a Netflix series. We get cancelled after 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we will be diversifying and playing our games on the Pornhub moving forward. The opportunity to watch watch 11 men get fucked apparently
We
quite high.
see what we obviously know. What Chris has just given us a massive insight into his private life.
Well, we're only using your second computer because Dell are still dumbfounded by the content of the hard drive of your first one.
Yeah, the VPN didn't work.
The VPN didn't work, kids. It was a what was the name of that company that we had as a sponsor for half an hour? Investec. It was a Daniel Levy product that you bought there, and it didn't work. But no, I think Daniel will give him what the bread and circuses end of our fan base want, which is to let's go again, Ange. And I think before Christmas, and that's a good bet if you can get a bookie to take it. And then I wonder what sort of price you'll get. Is to see where we are at Christmas, and then decide that he's got somebody lined up when he pulls the trigger.
Because that works so well for every other club that's ever done that, like Ten Hag, etc., hasn't it? You know, that's worked so well, hasn't it? So,
well, don't worry.
You should look at what happens with other clubs. I know you've got to look at each club individually, but you look at any manager who's won a trophy but been appalling in the league, and he's never lasted very long in the next season. So why are we repeating somebody else's history?
Yeah, but it's season 3. It's season 3. Why can't you be happy with season 3?
Because I saw what a fuck their season 2 was.
Two additional factors I'd throw in there: that Paratici is supposedly going to be back. Don't think Ange was ever his first choice.
The cavalry are coming.
Yeah, well, if Munn exits the building, he has lost a very powerful ally who probably did him a favour when people were calling for him to be chopped. So Munn's not going to be there. You got Paratici there, who probably is going to be saying, "Nah, he's not the man." And then the other thing, no great loss, and I wish him well if he goes, and good luck to him. But Ryan Mason is supposedly in talks to take on the West Bromwich Albion coach's role. So if he loses him,
I've spoken to some West Brom fans, and they couldn't be more inert at the thought of Ryan Mason.
So he loses some support within the club. He loses a member of his coaching staff from a pretty pathetic, ordinary coaching network. He could. Do you know what? If I was him, I'd walk away on a high and just call it an amicable separation, because then your legacy remains.
Not being funny though, but realistically though, I was having this conversation with Mrs. yesterday because she's very much of the opinion that she says I give him another 6 months, and that's fine. You know, that's their opinion.
Is that because you speak to each other on Mondays?
Yeah, I haven't buried her under the patio yet, Chris. Don't worry, mate.
I know it's coming. Yeah.
But
it's on the cards. We're in touching
distance. We will listen to other people's opinions and then make rational arguments as to why they are wrong. Or in my case, I am always wrong because I'm married. Tune in next week when you hear Nurse Piggy say.
Just use the breathable membrane, Tony. No one has to lift the patio to deal with the weeds underneath.
The thing is that but we can have those as adults who can hold two different thoughts in their head, as we like to say. We can have those discussions, we can have those conversations with people, and still come up with rational arguments as to why somebody like Ange needs to go now. Now, if I were Ange, I'm sitting there. This is slightly taking his side here, but I'm sitting here on a contract where if you want to fight, I'm not walking until you give me the loads of money, mate. And let's face it, if we're in that same position, would you do the same thing? I absolutely would. I'm not going to walk away from it.
I think he's doing, from a Ange-centric point of view, I think Ange is doing saying exactly the right things in respect of this particular issue. Yeah. That he's got a contract which has got another 2 years on it or something daft. And so he knows he's arrogant and he's a narcissist, but he's not so stupid. He's not immune to the fact that he knows how many games he's lost. Being trooped into that press room every other week is harrowing. His press conferences have been world-beatingly short, averaging about 5-6 minutes. So it's literally, how do you cope? Well, until they scored the third goal, we were looking all right, mate. He doesn't want any more of that. He's not received much love. He's had his around the campfire chats, which he's enjoyed. And I said to Pushkas, and Pushkas said to me, ho, 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 and all that other irrelevant shite that he came out with whenever he was asked. But beyond them, he's not enjoyed himself. So he's got another 2 years of whatever in footballing hero standards. I'm not talking about compared to with what I and you and everybody next door earns, but he's got tons of money coming in, and why would he jeopardize that? So he can just sit there and say, well, I'm baffled you're asking me about the 22 games we lost and flirting with relegation for the last 6 months when I've just delivered you the Europa League trophy.
But didn't you
Well,
know we're winning the Champions League in 2026 because it's been played at the Puskas Arena. And
there you go. It's fate. Oh God, it's
the
karma.
millennials and the Gen Zs tell me that because Puskas was Ange's favourite player and they were mates, that it's written in the stars.
I think worlds are colliding.
Into the Twilight Zone, mate.
Can you imagine winning the Champions League and being relegated to the Championship? That'd be spectacular, wouldn't it?
I mean, if he wants to really break records, that's the one, isn't it?
That'd be brilliant. Yeah,
we can have the biggest stadium with the best.
Can you imagine that happening? Can you imagine that happening? How that would fuck with every other supporter of every other team's minds.
Paddy Power would be an overdrive, wouldn't they?
Paddy Power would be able to
forever and a day.
Yeah, I mean, Paddy Power could actually give up the business of betting, which I'm sure they'd like to do because it's a market that's disappeared out of all the dimensions, and they could just spend their entire lives churning out content based on flange ball.
I think if Levy's got anything about him, he's got to recognise what's the phrase? So long and thanks for all the fish.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it's got. That's what it's got to be, because you cannot maintain being a credible club by winning your first. The problem is we've, as fan base, I was going to say this earlier. As a fan base, of course we're delighted. We've won feck all for 17 years. Of course we're going to be overjoyed. And I just think some people are just taking it to an extreme that's way too far. You know, they're so starved. We're so starved of success that we're gonna be dining out on this for months. And it's just like, I'm sorry, it's not that. It's great. Don't get me wrong. Of course it's great, and I'm as delighted as anybody. But it's you're not living out on that for very long, because we're now, as you said, Chris, we're now into the business phase of the off season, which is like about getting all our ducks in a row, getting the right players in. And if you're going to stick with Ange, you're going to have to give him a load of money to invest in that team. And he's not shown that he's capable of actually spending decent, money on decent players.
He's had, to the risk of sounding like my compadre Christoph there, he's spent 400 million.
440 million on.
And I get it. I'm the guy who wouldn't shut up. But this isn't about the coach's decision making, because the coach doesn't make that many decisions. All the transfer stuff is worked out by Daniel, and it's to his everlasting idiocy that he has then, after denying it, because the line always put out was no, but the board, listen to the coach, listen to the board decision, and then Daniel comes out and spoils all that, says, "Oh, I'm going to step back," which he's been saying for the last 4 or 5 years.
With the new guy coming in, Vinay, managing everything football related. If he's got anything about himself, he wants to bring, as arguably happens in every large enterprise, new management teams come in, they all want to bring their own people with them. Yeah. So what a better statement for him to come in and bring his own new leadership team with him.
We already know what his agenda is, though, because he's admitted what his agenda is, this new guy. His new guy is primarily to focus on business operations.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's one of the problems. They've got 700 employees at the club. And I mean, I'm not making a call on whether they're overstaffed or not, but what I'm saying is, how many of them have been there? How many of them are in senior positions, decision-making decisions? Because I've been told by numerous people over the years. I was told as recently as 2 weeks ago that there isn't a box of paper clips come in that it doesn't go across Daniel's desk. You know, it's everything is about him, and I've been told this for years, for 20 plus flipping years I've been doing this, and it's all true. And people don't like to hear it because they think we're this wonderful enterprise, and we're not. But you've got this situation whereby, like this guy, as I said, he's had over in excess of 400 million quid worth of players, and even Pochettino, who I appreciate was a slightly tainted in the respect that he was so frustrated with that situation. He went along with the very happy routine, but he got in the main pretty good players. And when he was just at his wit's end, he clearly said to Daniel, well, I don't care. You do it. You're in charge. Why aren't you asking me if I want this guy? He's not on the list.
Well,
I
the
gave
thing
you a
is,
list
well,
of 10
Poch
players,
also
and you give
developed
me
players, though.
made it into a list of 20, and you just
Absolutely. But
offering
Poch
him
also developed players. He brought some
Yeah.
players through. This
Yeah.
guy, everywhere he goes, he does not develop players. He just buys players. Now,
Injures them inevitably.
As did Tim Sherwood. Let us not forget. He's. I'd like to think I had an hand in it. Sherwood. What an absolute scumbag. Yeah. Well, I thought to myself, I ain't gonna have it, am I? I ain't gonna have it. All right,
you mean Tim Sherwood, the manager, more transitory than Bonnie Blue's boyfriend?
Tim Sherwood, the man who's got a walk-on part in his own life.
Yeah. But again, it's about that as well, isn't it? It's if you're going to, like we talked about green shoots earlier, if you don't necessarily make the best purchases in terms of but at least show in other areas that you're capable of taking some of the more inexperienced youth players and developing them and showing that there's promise there that can actually be used in the future. Archie Gray, I actually got no idea what he thinks of Archie Gray anymore, because he stuffed him in for half the 3/4 of the season in the wrong position, had to rely on him heavily, then has dumped him unceremoniously like a really cancerous tumor, and the guy comes back, plays him in a position where he should have been playing all season, but he's now suffering from PTSD because he's been fucked about so much. So what does he actually think of this guy? I don't know.
I think I tell you what, I would credit Ange. I discredit him endlessly, but I would credit him with enough sufficient low animal cunning that he has realised that the moment he deviates from his very best 11, plus he's got Daniel in his ear telling him that he's got to play this and got to play that. I think that he realises that the moment he starts to tinker, he will be exposed, and this again, the magic of science here that you can't argue with. You can't tinker with the team. You need to have a strategy, not a plan, a strategy whereby it's inclusive with the kids. And the plan is that you want to get them involved. I mean, turning round to Mikey Moore and whoever else he was referring to, because he kept that vague, and saying they didn't make a compelling argument when they were given their chance.
They're 17 years of age, for Christ's sake.
I think that's pretty bloody disgusting. I mean, the idea that they're in some sort of inanimate thing, like a non-human thing, like a I don't know. I mean, like a racehorse or something. And you're saying, right, there you go, racehorse. You suddenly got a vacancy to put you into this race, and the horse is expected to. You need to have things working all the time, and you need to have them feeling part of the gang. And I think there's an awful lot of segregation goes on within football clubs and the hierarchy, because but we need a coach that can actually be on top of the situation, whereby he's not burning players. Because Archie Gray, as you say, I've got no understanding of how appreciated or unappreciated he is. His career at Spurs has gone sideways at an alarming rate. Everybody likes him. He won the award this season. I think there's plenty to be positive there, but wouldn't it be great if he was just played in the position that he would naturally prefer? And if he can't, then why did we buy him? And if we can't play him in his natural position, why aren't we rotating him and keeping him on the ball? And this is how you cope with injuries and how you take on more than one competition.
Can I stop you there? You're asking two sensible questions. You're coming across a bit mad, if I don't mind me saying.
I think H, you should join Chris in his extremely bland room there, which I think is a padded cell.
Well, you mean my prison cell?
Well, I'm waiting for Tom Cruise to come into shot with a drip of sweat on his glasses. Just lowers himself down. It does look like that room.
He played Archie Gray because he had to, because he decimated the squad.
Dear Lord. For a moment, your undercover cloaking shield worked. I couldn't see you at all.
Yeah. Take my breath away.
I was wondering if he was going to burst into I feel the need for speed.
No, Tone, you've lost that loving feeling.
I thought we were going to get a rendition of the frog chorus.
Next thing you know, he's going to start talking about the benefits of Scientology.
You see, you just look into their eyes.
Into their eyes.
But the thing is that he played Archie Gray because he had no choice, because he decimated the squad, because he wasn't playing him at the start, and he was, and so therefore he had to chuck him in, which is fine because, as we've said before, is that well-worn phrase, isn't it? If they're good enough, they're old enough. I mean, look, I know it's an exceptional talent, so it's not fair to compare. But like someone like Lamine, we talked about him, Lamine Yamal, whichever way around, I can't remember. You mean Lamal? I can't remember, but he's 17, and the guy is actually just taking on the world. Now I know there's not a comparison in terms of the in terms of the actual talent, and he's at Barcelona, it's a different setup, etc., etc. But if you look at some of the other clubs, Miles Lewis-Skelly for Arsenal, 18 years old, playing really, really good football. Yes, he's raw. Yes, he's got a red card in. We know that. But you look at that guy; he's got talent. He's really, really, really talented. And Arteta has had the courage to play him in his position. Which guess what? It's a strangely important thing. This, putting a player in their position that they actually have been trained and developed to play in and prefer to play in. So
I get the sense that Ange prefers to put players in their place rather than in their position.
Well, I mean, we like to call that the Spence philosophy, don't we?
Yeah. When you've got dependable Ben Davis, you don't need other players.
When's his latest contract being announced? They haven't announced one recently.
Season 3 is going to be 34 appearances for Ben.
Yeah, well, what are we going to call it? I think we're going to call it the octogenarian,
the Ben Davies.
Another thing that frustrates me: the suggestion we're still looking at Tyler Dibbling for 40 million, who couldn't even get into a relegated Southampton team.
No,
and that Memphis tell anybody who pays 45, 50 million for him clearly doesn't understand or get football. So there's far better options out there.
We've hit the hour mark. Any more?
Well, we're happy, but despite everything we said, we're happy.
Yeah,
I'm very happy on the inside. my GP confirmed that last week.
He's like an armadillo, crunchy on the outside, chewy on the inside. Armadillo.
It's about time you got yourself down the pub, H. It's 11 minutes past 9.
Exactly.
Yeah. Spoons will be open for breakfast, mate. Come on, get it down. Yeah.
I've actually found, and I found it by chance before you two jackals come nipping at my heels. I was doing a video in the bit of Brum as you go out towards Digbeth, so it gets a little bit rough, a little bit tasty where the edges. And there's a pub in there called the Old Bull or the Old Bull's Head or something, and that opens at 8:30.
Oh, back of the net.
Back of the, but forget the beans on toast. Go straight into the back of the net. Yeah.
Just to update you further, I went into a pub that we've both frequented in the past Friday night.
Oh right.
So Cyprus and Turkey didn't see eye to eye, and he's been marched off the premises and is no more. Can you believe he had a narcotics addiction?
No, I find that impossible. He seems such a balanced and stable and all-round good chap.
I was shocked when I found out myself.
Dear me. Who, when he was marched off, I mean, there's a limit to how much detail we want to go into live, but I mean, by the authorities or?
I think there were Ninas and Woo-Wahs involved.
Book 'em, Dano. Book 'em.
Yeah.
Dear me. What a terrible thing to happen to such a lovely, forthright individual.
And on the subject
who's homing in on the missus now? Then that's a real question.
A couple of J2Os and she's anybody's.
Yeah. I was going to say, Abby Grace Summers. You want to get yourself, see if you can get yourself a job at a pub in Chris's neck of the woods.
Yeah, I'll be sniffing up you like a rat up a drain pipe.
Like a rat up an aqueduct.
We cover the whole gamut on this channel. We go from serial killers to sex predators to nymphomaniacs, all the way down to low hanging fruit and crispy.
Low hanging fruit isn't the half of it, I tell you. And for a small fee, we can give you the name of the pub, and believe me, kids, you won't regret it.
Mate, I know you said the channel wasn't doing that well, mate, but come on, there are certain things you just don't there are certain Rubicons you don't cross, mate. Come on.
No. We sell information on this show. We don't sell T-shirts or key rings. We don't take fivers for asking us banal questions.
We
You take
create
confidential informant to the next level.
we create everlasting memories. Just remember
Yeah,
that, Tony.
people come here for memories, and,
Yeah.
and we're selling the possibility of a
Wait,
Cypriot
and
memories
that-
could blow your mind.
Chris goes
And they
anywhere,
leave-
Chris
and-
goes anywhere
and-
for memories rather than memories.
And they leave just good friends.
And on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Subscribe if you want to. Don't subscribe if you don't want to. We've been having a battle with people who don't like the truth in the last week. We
Predominantly
don't
from
care.
Australia.
Yeah, we don't care. And so we're having fun. Hope you are. And good luck. Keep it Tottenham. There we go.
There you go.
It's not